I Instagram Live is a little bit of a tricky thing. So I removed her, but I hope I didn't expel her. I didn't hope I didn't excommunicate you, Alicia. I think you were fantastic. Let me see if we have our next guest here. Let me see if here she is. Okay, waiting patiently. Food of Love, New York City. Let's add you. I'm sorry. We'll bring on. This is Victoria Rae Sook of Food. Victoria.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
All right, Victoria. First of all, I apologize. Earlier on, I was running through the who we have on tap for tonight, and I had a momentary loss of memory, so I stumbled over your name for a second at the beginning of the show. But I'm very happy you're here to join us. So, Victoria. We're a little bit later than I anticipated in terms of where we are in the hour-long broadcast. So I'll try to be a little bit more succinct in our discussion. Tell me, I met you about a year or so ago. Maybe it was 2 years ago. What was the production you were doing at that time?
We were doing Love's Labor's Lost with Food of Love, and I remember we had reached out. I think you did reach out on Instagram, and you met me while I was still in costume as the Princess of France.
I think so. I think so.
Pretty exciting.
That's right. So tell us about that. Now, that's how I got to know you. Was that your first production in the city, or what's your history in the New York City scene?
No, so I moved to the city in 2012, and I'm a freelance director, actor, producer, and choreographer. And I have, just acting, auditioning, living the dream, like people do, and really, really enjoying myself and having success and just doing, I tell people the definition of success is creating art and being able to feed yourself. And I was doing that, and that was I was having fun with that, and then I just decided that I had more to say in the medium, and I had this crazy dream to create art and really make an immersive, a way of making Shakespeare where it wasn't actors and audience and using all of your senses as a point of immersion. So Love's Labor's Lost was our first production, and that started in 2016, actually, in my living room. And that was Food of Love's
Really?
first show. It did. It was a bunch of people with a dream, and we said, let's see if this works. And it was cooking the food and dancing all around you, squeezing as many people into my apartment as we could. And a lot of that choreography, actually, and all of the dishes that you were eating and the things that you were smelling made it into that production that you saw 3 years later in the off-Broadway production. And, people say throw spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks. And there was no spaghetti in that show, but there was mac and cheese. And it stuck, and people liked it. So we made it from... I think that we should dream big, because sometimes it happens.
Well, I think it was a really, my wife and I attended that show, and we both really loved it. And I think it's I wouldn't say that it was a dinner theater production, even though in some technical ways it kind of was. It was kind of like the old school dinner theater production, but you took that concept. For those that might not have seen it or might not be aware of it, what you had is you had a production in the round of Love Labor's Lost, where the audience was surrounding the performing space, and throughout the show you were providing the audience with different something to drink, something to eat, and the actors were doubling as the waiters, I guess would be the word for it. And it was a really exciting production, because it's, aside from the individual performances, which you had a lot of great performers in there, aside from that, I think the way that you guys connected with the audience was really, really unique, and that was really exciting for me. Tell us about how that production, you started in your living room, in your apartment. How did it get onto the stage in the city there? What was that process like?
Yeah, thank you. So like I said, it was a lot of people just having fun. And so after the shows each night in the living room, it was kind of open another bottle of wine and tell us what you liked and tell us what you didn't like. And we kind of workshopped it there, and every day people were coming in with what we learned and what we didn't learn. I think when you succeed, you don't learn as much as when you fail, and there were lots of failures early on. And then we took the things we learned there, and were able the next year we were able to take the charm and the joy from the living room and take that into a black box, because like you said, we were connecting with audience members, we were serving you. And I think what was really special about Love's Labor's Lost was that connection. It wasn't dinner theater, it wasn't serving you. When the men of the show come out dressed as Russians, they served you a borscht. When the ladies of France came in, they served you a French wine. It's truly using food as a point of immersion,
Right.
not to separate you, that it's all tied in together. And what was really fun about that is it was more like friends sitting down, having dinner together, maybe reading a Shakespeare show that then comes to life. And so we were able to take that charm of the living room and then bring that to a smaller theater that then was able to go to the off-Broadway theater the next summer after that.
Oh, so what I saw was the second iteration of it in a off-Broadway show.
Was the third. So we had Apartment, off-Broadway theater, off-Broadway theater.
Wow, fantastic. And how long was the run of that off-Broadway production?
The one that you saw was a 6-month run.
6-month run. Mm-hmm. Now, in the world of Shakespeare, that's a pretty long run.
We were pretty happy. Yeah.
That's a really good run. An off-Broadway show, sometimes they'll run for a couple of months, and that'll be a good stretch. Maybe a 3-month run is a good amount of time for it, but a 6-month run, that's a pretty sizable thing. So what was you were one of the producers of that and you had I believe some co-producers at that time.
Yes, I had a co-producer who actually was the whole reason we were able to transfer it. She had seen it in the black box and called me later. She had commercially produced a lot of things and was wondering, because our actual first idea was that we would take it into homes and kind of be this troupe of traveling actors who would be like a dinner party type thing and take it into your homes. And then we were testing it out in the black box because we just knew that it needed to grow and change and be this thing, because it got more popular than we ever thought it would. And then Amy Kasar saw it, is the producer, who then came on and called me and said, would you be interested in a full commercial off-Broadway run? And I then muted the phone and screamed as loud as I possibly could and scared everyone around me and said, like, yeah, sure, I'll take a meeting. And then she has become my true, she's the alphaba to my Glinda and my right-hand woman. And she produced Love's Labor's Lost with me, and then went on we produced Midsummer together too. And then we did Midsummer in collaboration with Third Rail Projects together.
Okay, so talk to us about that. So we went from Love's Labor's, and then what was the amount of downtime between that and Midsummer popping up?
So we were actually in talks. Love's Labor's Lost closed on January 6th of whatever year it was, and we had started talking about Midsummer because we knew when it was there was talk about a possible extension, and when we knew about mid-December that the extension wasn't going to happen, we were like, okay, but this is going well. We have an audience, we have followers, everybody is asking us when they leave, what's the next show, what is the next thing you're going to do? And we said, okay, so we have that. I had always dreamed of having up to maybe 6 shows. And so then Amy and I were like, okay, what is the next show? And I was like, and I have a short list of 6, and Midsummer was on that. And we were talking to Third Rail about it. And Zach Morris said, well, I'd like to do Midsummer. And I was like, that's on the list. And so we started talking and planning that almost immediately. So we were in talks, and I started cutting Midsummer about 3 days after Love's Labor's Lost closed.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember we had a chat after Love's Labor's Lost, and you were talking about something else in the works. So I imagine that's when Midsummer was brewing.
That is what it was, yes.
And how long did Midsummer run?
Midsummer ran for 8 weeks. We knew that was going to be a shorter run. It was a much bigger commercial venue, and that was also originally, that was the length of the run of the first run of Love's Labor's Lost, rather. So the first time we opened that, not the Love's Labor's Lost run you saw, but the summer before that was an 8-week run. So we wanted to we wanted to test Midsummer out the same way that we had tested Love's Labor's Lost the first time,
Mm-hmm.
because in the show like that, when it is so immersive, when you do have all those dishes and you do have so many things happening, it's really impossible to make sure it works without an audience in there. So we didn't want to set up an extended run until we knew that it worked. So we did have that 8-week run. We were so lucky. It was successful. I think that Midsummer is probably my favorite show that I've ever done. We took what we learned from Love's Labor's Lost and we made it even better. And there was some wonderful magic in it. And so, the next time it happens, we'll be able to hopefully set up for a longer run.
And talk to me about your award nominations for those two productions.
That was amazing. That was so exciting and so unexpected when it happened for Love's Labor's Lost. So those of you who are watching who don't know, we got nominated for a Drama Desk Award for Unique Theatrical Experience for Love's Labor's Lost, and then it happened again for Midsummer, and then we got nominated for a Off-Broadway Alliance Award also for Midsummer. And that's just the craziest thing because it's something that you dream about as a little kid, and then it happens and it just blows your mind. And then like when I got to go this year, they all went online, and then the Drama Desk, it went online and then it got delayed because of everything that's going on, which is absolutely what should have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But then like last year when I went, I was like walking around, I was like, it's Stephanie J. Block, it's Sheena Tabb, like it's all of these people who, and I had like zero chill about it, but then I was trying to keep it on the inside. And it was absolutely such an honor to have that happen and to get to just go and be with the New York theater community in a way that I felt really validated it. I feel like we all have, I think everyone in the industry has imposter syndrome, but I felt like I didn't realize how much imposter syndrome that I had, that like I had created this thing and it didn't feel real until I had received validation from from the Drama Desk Award. They were like, you did this thing and you did well. And I was like, I did. We did, didn't we? Like it was kind of good. And that was just very exciting and such an honor. And it was wonderful. And I do also feel that the one from Love's Labor's Lost was able to really help us with the momentum for Midsummer. So I'll be forever grateful to them for that, because that was really able to help us raise the funds as a producer for Midsummer. So thank you.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. When you have that almost like that pedigree behind you, or that the rub, shall we say, from those affiliations, that of course gives you the boost and moves you on to the next echelon, the bigger and better things. And speaking of which, there's the rub. So now, after those productions ended, what I've seen you posting about most recently is a production of Twelfth Night. So it seems like you're hitting all the big comedies. You got Love's Labor's Lost, you got Midsummer. Maybe you're missing Much Ado, but you went to Twelfth Night, which is also a big one. So tell us about what's happening with Twelfth Night, what the intention was, in terms of putting that together, what happened that it got postponed. Tell us the whole process.
Yes. So we did have something else brewing to be live that was actually in the mix, and had some actors playing with us for something to be our next live show. So do keep that in the ether and in your head for whenever things do come on their feet again. But who knows what that will be. But then when everything did stop, I was thinking about the only people who really don't actually get this time back are high school seniors, because even college is a little fluid. You can go, you can come back, but when you're a high school senior, this time is so special. You have prom, you have graduation, and that then it ends. Then that time is just done. And I was thinking about what a special time that was for me, and how that really shaped the artist that I am, and how much it would have devastated me had I lost that time. And then, you know, so the Food of Love show that we were working on had to end because of the shutdown. And then a freelance show that I was freelance dramaturging and ADing on had to shut down. And then my summer show ended. And so, you know, I was down quite a few gigs and had a lot of free time. And I knew that the students had free time. So I was like, how can we use Food of Love in a productive way during the shutdown? So I put out this nationwide call for seniors who lost their last senior show, and had a bunch of auditions. And I was like, what would be the best comedy? I always ask myself, why this show? Why now? And I was thinking, what's the best comedy? Because I knew it needed to be a comedy, but of someone who might feel a little lost, might feel a little at sea, and is navigating a world that feels a little foreign, because I feel like we all feel a little lost, or it's at sea right now. Like, what is going on? How do we navigate this world? And I felt like, I was like, oh, Violet, you know, she has to dress as a man to figure out what's going on. And I know, you know, maybe some of us are doing that right now, but you know, I'm in my pajamas every day, which is a pair of my fiance's plaid pants most of the time. So we can all relate a little bit, but it just felt really right. And so we're playing, and we're just joining in this virtual rehearsal room to play and create this art that wasn't there before, in this time that I feel is really lacking art. And we're having this really special time, and I feel like in a little way we're able to give back. And it's making Shakespeare accessible in a way that isn't how Food of Love normally does it, but it's a new way. And who are artists if we can't adapt and change? So
that process, the not being in the physical space with the performers, and not being able to institute your kind of like your namesake Food of Love process, where you have the round, and you have the performers interacting physically with the audience. You have the audience around you. What's that been like to go just to that Zoom world? Have you been able to feel that same connection, or is it a totally different experience for you?
I miss hugs so much, but it is really interesting, because I think that rehearsals can be sometimes really a lot more productive, because we're just like, okay, we're here, let's work, let's rehearse, and there's a lot less chit chat, which is really interesting. But something that I always do is I like to come and I like to arrive at rehearsal with, we all can have a collective breath. And on Zoom, that doesn't really translate. It's like, let's have a collective breath in our bedrooms. But it does seem to work, because we all just want to join, and we all want to have this theater experience. I have added a narrator character who is reading stage directions, and so you do get some fun food puns, because we are Food of Love, who, you know, she's eating some hot wings that are wash-fish, beware their sting, and things like that. So you do get some Food of Love,
little zingers, little references,
some little zingers for you.
Right.
But it's a fun, I think it is a brave new world, and we'll navigate it as we do, because there are some pluses and there are some minuses.
So and then I think it was just in the last couple of days that this decision was made to postpone the show.
Yes, and it was a hard decision. And had it been a professional show, I would have just made the decision, and that would have been to postpone. But it was, like I said, I did this show as a gift for these seniors. And so we decided, and we made this decision as an ensemble. And we decided to delay it together, because I felt like it was really important to talk about this with this ensemble of students. And it is a very diverse ensemble of students. And I wanted to see, like, and we're still rehearsing, because rehearsal is a really safe space to come for an artist. I mean, I know it is for me, and it was for a lot of them. And but some of them didn't want to come and rehearse, and I didn't want the stress of them to come and rehearse. It also didn't feel right to put a comedy out. Again, why the show? Why now? It didn't feel really right put out an escape for the world right now, when the world needs to
Right.
be focusing on something else. And
Right.
um, Food of Love was founded on the idea that all voices of all artists and creatives need to be heard in order to create a unique theatrical experience. And right now, I don't think we need to be putting voices out. We need to be listening to other voices. And I loved that,
Right.
you know, with me at the helm, we all came to that decision together, and I was very, very proud of them.
All right. Well, I think that's the right choice. You know, it's an unfortunate situation that they went from having lost one thing and they lose another thing, but it is what it is. And hopefully, at some point down the road, you'll be able to have that performance, and they can get that catharsis, that, shall we say, that what they've been waiting for with that production. So Victoria, we are just about out of time, and I apologize to you. I apologize also to Linnea Benson of the Frog and Peach Theater Company. She was going to be our third guest tonight. I think she had a little bit of technical difficulties, and we ran a little bit late with our interviews. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have her join us tonight. But Victoria, before we wrap it up, we have about 20 seconds left. If people want to find Food of Love and interact with you and find out what you guys have coming up whenever all this fades away, not the Black Lives Matter, but I hope that stays around. That's an important voice for us to hear. But I'm talking about coronavirus.